Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in-depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high-octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Top Tier Podcast. My name is Joshua Amore. I'm a certified G and a bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. And she's Big Dawn, and she's 7 foot tall, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, realest podcast in the room. How you doing?
I like it.
Yay! And on today's episode of Top Tier Wrestling, we are going to be covering Monday Night Raw from, September 16th. And this was a pretty good episode. We started out the evening with, I'm trying to remember right off the cuff. I believe CM Punk opened the show.
I think so. Yeah, you know that must be it because you can't remember it. You blocked it out.
I'm blocking it out, yeah.
So that's got to be it.
Yeah, it still ended up being a good show despite all of that.
Yeah.
If I recall, CM Punk opened the show and he came out and did a very kind of serious promo. Pretty much, I'm trying to remember. It felt like it was a whole lot of like, how many matches do I have left in the tank? And I think he said something like, if you're a fan of mine, you know, you're either going to be real disappointed or real pleased with the answer, but it's more than you think.
Yeah.
And he went on to say that, you know, he probably doesn't have that many more Hell in a Cell matches left in him. But after stating that his family pretty much had begged him not to do this Hell in a Cell match with Drew McIntyre, that he was ready at this stage in his career, you know, for this to be the match where he puts it all on the line. If that's what this has got to be, then so be it.
Yeah.
And then basically finished by letting Drew know that he would see him in hell.
Yeah.
And that led us into, I believe, the first match of the night, which was
Sheamus, right? Sheamus versus
Sheamus and Pete Dunne. And we had a promo where Sheamus pretty much was reminding all of the fans that Pete hates being called Butch. And I think he tried to say Butch as many times as he reasonably could say it.
Yeah.
And that eventually got the fans to chant Butch, so he was just trolling Butch, and I'm here for it, because Pete Dunne is Pete Dunne, and he deserves to be trolled.
He deserves to be done.
And they make their way out to the match, and it starts out pretty much how you think it would. We had Sheamus's entrance, and then we had Pete Dunne's. And I remember commenting saying that I feel like Pete Dunne is at odds with his entrance, because the entrance is hard. Like, his entrance music is hard. But then Pete comes out in like his little singlet and like a fur neck piece. and it's like it's just at odds. Like he doesn't. His music sounds like hardcore, and then he
Yeah.
looks not that, like the opposite of that. Um, and I remembered like Sheamus looked slightly pre beat up because he had like this big red like bump or cut or something on like the inside of one of his biceps. But then again, Sheamus being like nearly translucent, he's so
Yeah.
white skinned, like any little blemish on his skin shows up twice as much. And it
Yeah.
wouldn't be the only blemish on the bicep that gets shown off this evening. But they had a banger of a match, and for
Mhm.
like the bulk of it, I feel like Sheamus just was hitting all kinds of like crazy power moves. I mean, I think there was a part at the beginning where Pete Dunne kind of was in control because I remember Sheamus being on his knees telling him to like, come on, is that all you got, Butch? And at one point they did make the joke of like calling him bitch, and I remember thinking it was funny because I think it was Joe Tessitore. I think it was either him or Wade. One of them said, "Oh, he mispronounced
Mispronounce.
Butch."
That was Wade. That was Wade.
I thought that
Wade.
was a wonderful way to acknowledge what he in fact called
Wade,
Butch.
ever the wingman, had his back. It was hilarious.
And all in all, it was a real buster of a match. Um, until Dunn resorted to cheating for the win, which is, I guess, the only way Butch or Pete is going to get a win over Sheamus. He
Yeah,
went for the shillelagh, and I believe Sheamus caught him, and then he threatened Butch with the shillelagh, but the ref stopped him, and while the ref was kind of looking away, it allowed Pete Dunne to get like a different foreign object and then
a
hit
cricket
Sheamus in
bat.
the head with it. Yeah, a cricket bat. And that led to Dunn hitting a pump kick, which is just insult to injury because it's like the Pete Dunne tinier, weaker, lamer looking version of a brogue kick that he beat Sheamus with for a pinfall win.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Pete does the whole shrug, oh, I wonder what happened kind of a face that he makes, which I'm not sure what kind of a character he's going for here. Because it's like you're a little cheaty rat character, and then you do a little shrug, and it's like, I just don't know what to make of Pete Dunne. Um, I, I can say that I like watching Sheamus beat Pete Dunne up. Uh, I still
There's
don't
that.
fully I still don't fully understand the motivation behind why Pete Dunne somehow blames Sheamus for him being Butch when he was completely irrelevant in every possible capacity on the main roster prior to Sheamus pulling the Brawling Brutes together. And while the Brawling Brutes only went so far, I mean, it at least put them on the map. So I guess this is just a very threadbare way to create an angle. So you still essentially have Sheamus putting over Pete Dunne. Um, and I don't know. I think altogether I would just prefer for Sheamus to win more often. I like him a lot. He's fun. I like the character's personality. I think he looks like he could beat anyone on the main roster legitimately.
Mm-hmm.
And so while it was a good enough match and it had some decent high spots, there was a particularly nasty power slam that Sheamus delivered to Pete off of the top rope.
Yeah.
Uh, Otherwise, I just can't say I was thrilled with the finish. I mean, I guess it's not a technical complaint. That's more of a fan complaint. Like, I want Sheamus to just beat Dunn into the floor.
Yeah.
But maybe that sets him up for a match at Bad Blood where he does just that. So, on the whole, a good opening match. And I'm always happy to see Sheamus. I've been a fan of Sheamus for years.
Yeah. Me too. So it was good to see him.
It was good to see him.
Yeah, but PD
P-
won.
Little PD Dunn won.
Done won. He won. Um, and then after that, I think we saw Jay Uso and the Terra Twins, Rhea Ripley, Damian
We
Priest,
did.
and Xavier of Woods.
Yeah, that the way that played out was, if I recall correctly, Damian Priest and Rhea were kind of discussing strategy, and basically Rhea encouraging Damian Priest to absolutely dismantle Dominic Mysterio. And Jay Uso showed up and more or less said, "Hey, I know, you got this, and that you can handle your business, so I won't interfere. But how did he phrase it? I know how the Judgment Day likes to roll, so I'll be watching that match, and I'll have your back afterwards," something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
then, like you said, Xavier Woods shows up and also mentions that the New Day was going for the World Tag Team titles against Judgment Day's, Balor and McDonough. And while he respects that, there's beef between the Terror Twins and the Judgment Day, he kindly asked them to not interfere in, out of
Yeah.
respect, out of mutual respect, please stay back and not interfere in our tag title match. And Priest says that he can respect that, but to also whoop their asses. and and then Xavier leaves, and then Jay leaves, and I think does like a yeet, and then Rhea does like the cutest little girly yeet, and it was everything. Like Rhea doing the little tiny girl yeet
Yeah.
when she's so often conveying such a like vicious character. To see her girl out around Jay Uso is like hilarious and awesome.
Yeah, and very, very cute.
Very cute, like
It's the most
remarkably cute.
proper yeet. It's like the T is strong and everything. It's just yeet.
It is the curtsy of yeet.
There it is. The curtsy of yeet. Yes.
Yep, the curtsy.
Quite polite. Yeah. Yeet, good sir.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of everything that's happening there. Where like Jay will make the eyebrows towards Rhea, and Rhea will make the girly smile back. It's killing me. They've got to go to the Waffle House.
Yeah, they got to. They got to. That's how you know it's solidified if they're at the Waffle House.
Right. That's when the relationship really matters.
But speaking of things that killed me, Natalia versus Joey Zoe Stark was up next. Before that, though, I think the Miz. There's like a little scene where we come back from commercial, and the Miz is approaching Braun Strowman backstage. And they have a conversation. Strowman shows that he's got a bruise on his arm. And
Yeah.
he asked Miz. Basically, Miz says, "Good luck, you got this," and all that. But then he asked Braun what he meant by the comment that he had made last weekend. If you don't remember, before he had his match with no, it wasn't last week, a couple of weeks ago really, when he had his match with Big Bronson Reed, he said backstage that the Miz was no match for him.
Yeah, for Bronson Reed.
Right, and so that's what Miz was referring to. Was asking what he meant by that, and Strowman said that all he meant was, he's not a monster. Essentially, that the Miz isn't a monster. And Miz seemed to take no offense to that. Basically said, "I get it. I'm not a monster," and just said,
For
"Good luck again."
now.
Yeah, for now. That's what I said. ... And then he walks off stage. Well, we all know the Miz. Like the Miz, I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna try to keep it brief, but I'm gonna say that I think the Miz is better as a heel. He's way more vicious. I don't know what it is about when he's a face where he just kind of takes things a bit more mellow and laid back. And maybe that's just his approach to being a face. But when he's a heel, he's hella entertaining. So
Mm.
I think he might be having another heel turn. Maybe he's going back to what's comfortable for him. Um, and if that's the case, I'm here for it. Honestly, and I thought he was gonna, do something that night because we know the Miz. You know the Miz. He's funny, haha, but that dude can be surprisingly brutal when need be. So, and very sneaky, and he's great at being.
Sneaky, yeah.
Yeah, he's great at being sneaky. He's great at being that character. Um, he's like Logan Paul's dad. uh, but seriously, all kidding aside, but that was a very interesting little tidbit that happened backstage. And if they're gonna carry on with story lines like they seem to be doing, because I would say this Raw was kind of heavily story driven. There were lots of
Yeah.
stories that they were covering here. This next match though with Natalia and Zoe Stark just didn't feel like one of them. Or maybe what I should say is the story they're trying to tell, I'm not here for. Um, so
Yeah.
Natalia's music comes on, she comes out. Zoe comes out next. Honestly, I thought Zoe was gonna already be in the ring with the way they were treating it. Um, because like they were going on and on about how the crowd was popping for Natalia. I I didn't hear the pop from the audience that they were talking about. That's that's
Maybe
not
they
to
were
say.
referring.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, maybe they were referring to the what was it, the Raw before,
No.
where she was in Canada with like Bret Hart and Sami Zayn.
Hey, that's a really good idea, but not what was happening. No, they were talking about her coming out to the ring at that particular moment. Uh, Tesseract was mentioned that it was a huge pop, and I'm like,
That's correct.
I'm like, okay, Mr. Tesseract, sure.
Joe
But
Tessitore will forever be the MacGuffin from the Avengers.
but I'm like, okay, Mr. Tesseract, sure. Sure, the crowds are popping, right? Um, you know, I'm like, my knees are. I just stood up, but
There's the crowd pop. It was my knees.
yeah, I was standing up. Maybe that's what you heard, sir. I just was trying to get me a glass of water. Jeez, but thanks for calling me out. Thanks for calling me out, Mr. Tesseract. Um, but no. Uh, the match was quick, and I honestly, I'm gonna say, I think it looked more like a match for Natty. It did not look like a match for anything else other than to showcase the fact that Natalia was back or some shit, and she could still
Yeah.
wrestle or some shit. Um,
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, boiling it down to what it was, this was just a softball for Natalia
and
after the pop from, or I guess, doing a favor for Natalia. I don't know.
I
I,
don't know,
was it
but
a big return for her? Is that what we didn't understand that happened last week? Like, I guess she had been gone and now she was back. So,
I
I'm not sure, but they
I
basically
guess.
just fed Zoe Stark to Natalia, was
But
this
no,
match.
yeah. Here's the thing: if you are going to essentially start putting your older wrestlers on the shelf, and you're gonna start pushing your younger wrestlers forward, which is kind of the shtick of WWE. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that that's just kind of how they usually run things. And once you get to about 42, you start to get your last hurrah, basically, your last up and comings. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Natalia is about that age. I don't want to put this woman's age on blast. Don't nobody come for me for this. I'm sorry, okay? I'm just saying I think she's in her upper 40s. But
No,
once
no,
you get
not
to about
upper, early,
early,
early.
yeah,
In that
early,
about
sorry.
42 range.
Yes. But once you get to about 44, uh you may be treated better than others. But regardless, once you get to about 44, that's when your ship starts to sail on in home. It's time to dock that bitch. You're about to be done. I don't know other ship analogies here. Boat. I don't know. Adam here. But that's when they're kind of like, it's time for you to think about retirement. You know. And if you think I'm just making that up, uh, go down the list, man. Pick them. Pick your guys. They like around 35 to 40. That age is the perfect age for them to put you as a star. That's when they'll want to put a belt on you. You're gonna be a seasoned wrestler. You're gonna know the ins and outs of the sport. You should have your character down packed by then. You should have your move set down. You should be, that this is the prime of your life. And
Yeah.
if you're a younger wrestler and you're coming in and you have skill like that, where you can work with seasoned uh wrestlers, then you'll get a push even sooner. Like you're gonna be you'll be a wonder, a prodigy. But
Hmm.
around about 35 to 40 is when they're gonna want to put a belt on you. So you gotta look good. You gotta look real good. You gotta look the part, play the part. It's your moment in the sun. After that, though, that's when things start to kind of slow down. You'll have like a little break, and then your last hurrah starts to pop up around your early 40s.
Like
Um,
about 45 on is where they sunset you, it seems.
it's when they start the sunset. Yeah, and I know people. I've had this conversation before with other people, uh, online. Like a proper nerd, and and not like face to face. God, what's wrong with you? Um,
Well, you and I have had them face to face, but yeah.
well, yeah, yeah, but I mean, God, like other people. Ugh. No, I'm kidding. The shiver was real though, guys. But just name a guy. Like the first person that people bring up to me is Randy Orton. And when they do, I say you're proving my point when you do that. Because Randy Orton, how old is he? 44? I think he's
Um,
about 44. I don't have the information right in front of me, and I'm not about to nerd out and type it out. But
Uh, well remembered, 44. Yeah.
44 years of age. Okay, he's in some matches right now. Yes, the crowd still pops for him. He still comes in and he puts on bangers. But where that belt at? Where's his belt? I don't like you're like and I know, but the point is there. It's been proven there. Um, AJ Styles, I think he's about 44, if not older. Um, Same thing there. Where's his belt? He comes in. He comes in. He is cut. He looks like he is chiseled from stone right now.
Yeah, he's in the
Right?
best
Like
shape of
he
his life.
best
And
shape of his life.
AJ and John Cena are easy for me to remember because we're all 47, all 1977 babies.
All right. So where's that belt? I'm telling you, I don't see it happen. Look now there have been times where a wrestler comes and he's older than that and he'll get a belt. There's time it's not normal. It's rare, and that's just not how things are normally done in WWE. So all of these guys, they're still good. They're still moneymakers. They're still uh ticket. Uh, people will still buy tickets for them. But when it comes to like belts, I don't see belts going on those dudes. Uh, the guys that are getting close to their last hurrah, they're about to start getting those belts and whatnot and the championship matches, and it kind of looks like that's what's happening right now. Roman Reigns could still go. I think he's 38. Same thing with Cody, and that again proves my point. That proves what I'm saying. They're in that age range. So I said all that to say that I think that's what's happening here with Natalia. I think they're giving her her last hurrah, her last, like, hey, we love you, and we do. She's great. Here's my issue though. I don't know why they fed Zoe Stark to her. Um, they aren't doing anything. I'm so sorry, guys, but they aren't doing anything with Shayna. They're not doing anything with Sonya. Um, they got. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why they have Zoe with these other two ladies. I have tried to be positive about
Yeah.
the Pure Fusion Collective. I've tried, but ever since Sonya's come back, I'm not impressed with what she's done in the ring. She looks nervous. She looks sloppy. And I'm sorry, but nervous and sloppy means dangerous to all your other superstars. So,
Yeah. And
uh,
it's also not conveying dominance, which
no,
is what
absolutely not.
this group I thought was trying for. I mean,
Yeah,
but with Sonya looking, as you said, nervous and sloppy, and Shayna Baszler has been checked
checked
out
out.
for
And
years now,
yeah, and we've
and
said that several times already about her. I love Shayna Baszler. Like you know I do, which is
yeah,
why this is a very upsetting thing for me to have to say, but it is
but
what it is.
she's definitely not the Shayna Baszler as I think you referred to it in an earlier podcast, like 2017 Shayna
Yeah,
Baszler. She's
yeah,
not that girl, and maybe they thought at the time, hey, we'll pair her with Zoe Stark, and maybe that'll liven her up. Now she's kind of got a protege; she can show her the ropes, but.
yeah,
Unfortunately, I have to agree with what I think you were getting at, which is instead of Zoe Stark being brought up by being put with more veteran talent, it's
yeah,
actually like she's being sunk.
yeah,
She's one of the NXT talents that's not being properly elevated.
yeah.
Um,
And
and she
I
should be
don't.
because she's a beast in the ring. Like she's
Yes,
got
yes,
fantastic in the ring. If anything, maybe the last thing that I saw that of hers that I felt really still needed some work was what she does in terms of cutting a promo whenever they give her the mic.
yeah,
And honestly, I think it's like she just needs to take a moment and catch a breath. Like she
yeah.
seems like she speaks nervous and so she trips over her words.
Yeah, and then they kind of took the ability for her to even learn that away, because most of the time Sonya's the mouthpiece.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a fair point. Yeah, Sonya came back and is basically serving as the mouthpiece. So
and but that's all you are. Is like a mouthpiece, and you ain't even really dropping nothing. Like you weren't cutting amazing promos, sweetie. Like you weren't saying anything that's shaking anybody to their core. Um, Honestly, Shayna could cut a better promo if she was even freaking here. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
no, yeah, Shayna I think could like the last time Sonya was on the mic was in this match. Oh no, the match that happened a week prior where Natalia came back
Yeah. And she
because
and
it looked like it was just going to be Zelina and Lyra, and so
yeah.
she's in there and she's like, "Oh, so you found your little mystery third partner? Well, then shoot your shot." And when she said "shoot your shot," it just made me feel like the way we make fun of the grizzled young veterans. When you see
Yes.
us coming, shoot your shot. You
You
know,
you
grit
and you
your
just
teeth.
yes, you just took the words right out of my mouth. Her problem is she's goofy. It's cheesy. It's cheesy. Right down to the two, like the bang bang gang fingers that they do. Like listen, when the bang
Right.
bang gang does the guns up, it doesn't look cheesy. It doesn't look stupid. When these ladies are standing there pointing guns down or something,
There's our guns
like
down, right?
what are you doing?
We
Like
got
shoot your
two
shot.
words for you. Flaccid. Like guns
shoot,
down.
shoot your shot directly into your foot because your gun's down here somewhere. It's stupid.
Well, and I remember thinking at the time that she delivered the line, not only did it not feel right, but she sounded insincere when she said it. So, like, she didn't even believe it. Like, she was like, I'm saying
Exactly.
this dumbass shit, you know?
Yeah, look in my eyes. What do you see, honey? Oh, honey, sweetie. Let's not. All right. So,
So, yeah, none of it's working the way, like, it should. Like,
yeah,
we have seen all the potential in the world for Shayna Baszler, and maybe it's still in there, but for whatever reason, she's checked out. I don't claim to know why. It's just
yeah.
the fact.
Well,
And then you've got.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, and now we were also super excited when Sonya Deville was coming back because, like, she was actually kind of on a run with old Chelsea
Yep.
Green. When she got injured and was out for 1,000,000,000 years, and so she comes back, and it's like, okay, like, we can see there's potential here, but potential has to be realized, and, like, you can't make you can't make it come out of somebody. So if Shayna's checked out and doesn't really care, and Sonya can't get there, then you really just have Zoe Stark with two albatrosses around her neck instead of
Yeah.
veterans helping her come up. And I didn't do anything for Zoe Stark's I don't know, stock, I guess is the best way to put it. By her just being fed to Natalia in what was honestly kind of a lame match with a lame finish. It was
Yeah.
a whole bunch of them doing like the trading roll up, roly, where it's like
Mhm.
one pin into another pin, into another pin, into another pin. So boring match that they just fed Zoe Stark to Natalia for, and probably the
Yeah.
weakest match of the night, honestly, for this particular episode of Raw. Its only saving grace is that it was quick.
Yeah.
If it was the match that you got up to go to the bathroom or make some popcorn or whatever, you didn't miss anything. It was that match, unfortunately.
But you'd better be back by the time that she won, because we go backstage to Rhea Ripley. She's been interviewed about her knee. And then here comes Finn Balor being all messy. And I'll be brief because we got some stuff that we got to get into. But they go back and forth where Finn Balor, he blames Ripley for what happened with the original Judgment Day. And he tells like she only cares about herself. And Rhea basically tells him like, can we not rewrite history? And lie in her face. Balor tells Ripley that when Liv was coming on to Dom, while they were still together, that he was the devil on Dom's shoulder that told him to go forward and do it, and talk his noise. And right then, the Yeet Man, main event Jey Uso, walks up and was asking if there was a problem. And Mr. Balor says he tells him that there's no problem, but that he should focus on his Intercontinental Championship goals, because he's in over his head, basically. And then he walks away.
Well, not just out of that he was in his head, but that he specifically said that Jay is out of Ripley's league.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Yeah, but he said Jay should focus on the Intercontinental Championship because Jay is out of his league with regards to Rhea Ripley.
Oh, I don't remember that. I just remember him saying that he was in over his head. Maybe maybe gestured or looked at Rhea, but then he walked off, and then Jay was talking to Rhea, and then Rhea says he's right though. Oh, that's right. He says he's right, and then Jay said about you being out of my league. Okay, so yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. It sets up
Yes.
that joke that they made.
Yes, because and then Jay's like, Nani about it, and she goes, no, about the Intercontinental Championship, and Jay goes, oh, because I was about to say,
Yep. And then Jay pops on his shades and starts walking away, and he's walking towards the camera. I remember this part because we got another one of those cute little like Kurt's Yeats out of Rhea,
Yeah,
who in the background kind of does the little yeet, you know.
yeah,
And Jay's just walking dominantly towards the ring. It was a great segment. I do have to say, and I've noticed it in the last two WWE shows, SmackDown and this week's Raw, they seem to understand that like the big attraction on Raw is the events going on with the Terror Twins and the Judgment Day. And
hmm
similarly, they understand that on SmackDown, it's the Bloodline. And so while the Bloodline might have, or conversely, the Terror Twins and the Judgment Day might have like one or two matches, they end up having these little segments that create a through line that maintains like a running storyline involving the most popular acts on each individual show. They did it on SmackDown by having a through line all night long about like the match that started, right? Like it
yeah,
was Cody and Solo, and that all blew up with Roman Reigns and everything. We covered that in a SmackDown episode. But then all night, right? It's like, well, you know, they've come back with a match, and then Cody's like, well, I'm not interested. And then they talk to Roman, and then Roman comes out. So all night
yeah,
long, there was this like persistent through line about what was happening with the bloodline that kept you focused on that, but you also got to tell all of the other stories as well. And they did the similar thing tonight on this episode of Raw,
yeah,
where there was just this persistent through line all night long of interactions between like the Terror Twins and different members of Judgment Day, and
hmm
the different individuals that are probably going to get roped into that, like Jey Uso, and as we'll get to later, another individual has entered the chat. But I just wanted to say I appreciate that formatting because they they really know, you know, what you came to see. And
look at
it's
you came to see.
and it's nice. It's nice that they're in touch with that fact, and it's nice that they've come up with a way to kind of keep that story cooking all night long
Yeah,
amidst everything else that also is happening on the shows. I like that format, and so I just wanted to give some credit to it. I liked it on both of these two shows, and I hope that's a thing that they keep doing going forward. I
yeah,
I, I really
I
appreciate
agree.
that.
hmm Yeah. Um. So what happened after that? So Jay's doing his walk. I'm trying not to cough here. It's that season. Um.
Oh, I got
Oh,
you.
Uso comes out to the stage. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna pick it up for you. Jey Uso does an in-ring promo talking about that he's excited that he got his match with Braun Breaker and he's going to get a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. And he says that's something he's wanted ever since he got to Raw, probably a little more than a year ago. And he feels confident that he knows he can be on his own and finally be main event Jey Uso.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
which, of course, immediately summons the current Intercontinental Champion to the
you
ring.
know. You know it.
Yep. Braun Breaker comes on out, and he immediately starts going in on Jay, saying he's done his research about how Jay has been in the WWE for 14 years. And he
Yeah.
says he knows that the fans love Jay. They love chanting Yeet. And that while that may be the case, he also points out that he, Braun Breaker, has done more as a single superstar in 6 months than Jay has done in his whole career. And I'm thinking, that sounds bad until you go with the fact that main event Jey Uso has been a singles, like he's been pursuing singles stuff for only about a year. So you do have about a 6 month lead on him. But prior to that, he was a recurring and like long reigning and perhaps best, most credentialed tag team in the WWE's recent era in those 14 years. So it's not like
Yeah.
he's been unsuccessful. He just hasn't been going for singles gold for any more
Yeah.
than like one of those 14 years. So
I thought it was hilarious when he said that. I was like, wait, because he was holding tag team gold. What do you?
yeah, he's had more tag title runs than you have like years on the planet. So and I think Jay ends up getting at him about that,
Yeah.
but he made it sound way worse than it actually is if you actually think about it for more than 2 seconds, which might be 2 seconds longer than Braun thought about it when he said it.
Yeah. But thankfully, Jey Uso is not only um like just hugely over with the fans. He's not only charismatic, but the dude can cut some really mean promos, and was very easily it was very easily able to put Breaker in his place with words. Murder with words. Um
Yeah, and
basically
again,
go ahead.
I was just going to say Jey Uso is remarkably good at going from being kind of party version to serious business version
Yeah.
to the jackal salivating about to eat somebody version.
Yeah.
And Braun, kind of prattles on about how he didn't need to lean into his Steiner name and whatnot. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, you probably got your shot immediately following your previous NFL career
Yeah.
because you're a Steiner. Like you
Yeah.
probably got the speed pass on that. But I don't. Maybe I'm overthinking what should just be a promo, right? It's just some of it didn't sit well with me because it was so just wrong. Like that's super not true. But
Yeah.
I guess that's part of how you make Braun Breaker a heel is that he's attempting to gaslight you or just straight up lie about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, But then Braun goes on to say that he's going to expose. I always find it weird when one wrestler threatens to expose another one. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's my inner pervert, but I'm always like, are you going to rip his clothes off next week on the show?
Like, what do you
Um,
mean, sir?
but it just sounds weird to say. Like I'm going to expose Jay next Monday because Jay is nothing without his family, and it's like, well, I don't think so because Jay, all by himself, so to speak, has created one of the most popular like one word catchphrases I've ever seen in my life. He basically singing his own entrance music, and
Yeet.
he's created this whole main event Jey Uso character pretty much absent the bloodline because prior to that he was a member of the Usos. So I think
Yeet.
Jay has done incredibly well all by himself. Even without having a piece of gold around his waist, he is one of the most popular superstars in the entire industry. Like that,
Yep.
like beyond WWE, there's wrestlers in the whole world that do not get the crowd reaction that Jey Uso does.
Yeah.
So again, these are just bouncing off Jay because none of them are true.
Yeah.
So he lets
But
Braun, yap his little doggy yaps, and then goes on to say that Braun has been on the roster for 6 months while Jay's been on the roster for 14 years winning championships. And he's been doing it since before he was born.
yeah.
Not quite true, but it conveys the point, right? Like
Yeah.
he has been
Mhm.
doing this
Mhm.
longer than Braun even had a thought about being a pro wrestler. and he's
Right.
won more championships than Braun could probably ever in his whole career. And I mean, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but he is one of the most like decorated tag team champions in the history of professional wrestling.
Ye-
A member of, not he is the tag team, but he is a member of one of the most successful tag teams in the entire history of the WWE.
yeah.
And I love what he said next because Braun likes to talk about the dogs barking, and he said Jay is gonna dog walk his ass.
Yes.
And then
Which was great.
it was great, and of course the fans popped like crazy, and that makes Braun all angry. And I'm a little surprised that Jay didn't see it coming because every time an angry opponent starts to turn away, you know that it's just so that they can swing on you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's the most obvious, like they're about to swing on you move. And yet Braun does this and hits Jay and then picks Jay up and runs to the ropes. But in a wonderful turn of events, instead of Braun running at top speed for a spear into Jay, Jay instead spears Braun, who ran into it at, as they are fond of saying, more than 23 miles per hour. Suffice it to say, Braun gets speared entirely out of the ring and like can't even take to his feet as he just sort of like shuffle crawls, and belly walks his way back out
Yeah.
because he apparently had never been speared so hard ever.
Yeah. Till actually Tesseract said right after that he talked to him earlier, and he said Breaker said that he had never been speared. He said I'd never been speared. I give spears. That's what he said. And so that was his first. That was baby's first spear.
Baby's first spear. So it was a great way to set up the tension between the two. And you have, for better or worse, you have spear versus spear going into this
Yeah.
match. And I say that because I've often lamented that so many wrestlers have adopted the spear as like their default finishing move.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a parody that we now have a spear off. But I'm invested enough in Jey Uso and Braun Breaker that I'll let it go. But
Yeah.
it is amusing.
Which and Breaker by the way is one of those 'cause he's a great wrestler. He's a great competitor, and that's why he's got that belt on him at 26. He's a great example of one of the young talents that I was talking about. That if you're good and you got a presence and you can cut a promo, that belt will go on you quick. So
Well, and
I expect that to be one of many belts that he'll be having on him.
well, and over the last couple of years, I want to say Braun Breaker, because we first got a look at him. I want to say like a year and a half ago, maybe even longer. When he was on NXT. And at the
Yeah.
time, we were like, "Ooh, he's a little rough still." He has changed that. I mean, there's still, I mean, you can still tell that there's ways he could improve on his craft, but he has soaked
Yeah.
up, like from where he was to where he is, has
Mm-hmm.
grown exponentially. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it helped that he worked down in NXT for so long with Baron Corbin, because Baron knows his shit. I know that they don't push Baron Corbin that much, but Baron
Oh,
is
don't even get me
is
started.
widely he is widely known as one of the safest and best workers. And
Yeah.
so if anybody could teach him, it would be Baron Corbin. But at any rate, Braun has definitely improved. I know I just kind of talked a bunch of smack on his attempt to smack talk Jey Uso, but I really am impressed with Braun Breaker. He has definitely improved, and I see
Yeah.
him being probably the next world champion in the not too distant future. Um,
Yeah.
but
I think so.
we'll see how the cards play out.
We will see.
Yep. So moving on from Braun Breaker getting broken, uh, we then come to Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, the women's tag team champions. They're backstage getting ready for Bianca Belair's match. And apparently this match was initially supposed to be with Kairi Sane, but Io Sky comes screaming up to Belair, like just screaming, and Bianca Belair's like, "What is happening?" And Io ends up saying, that it's absolutely absurd that you would challenge Kairi Sane when she still has a busted eye. And Belair's like, I didn't challenge Sane to a match. It was booked. But
Yeah.
if Sane can't compete, then she'd be happy to meet Sky in the ring. And Sky accepts the challenge. And so that sets up a match for later in the evening between Bianca Belair and Io Sky.
Yeah.
And then after that segment, we are treated to the third match of the night, which is the WWE World Tag Team Championship match between Finn Balor and JD McDonough of the Judgment Day versus Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods of the New Day. And so there was a whole lot of day in this match.
The new noodle versus the Judgment Noodle.
So in this match between the Judgment Day and the New Day, we were actually treated to a relatively decent match. They had made mention that Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods had not seen tag team gold in quite some time. I think it was something like 7 or 8 years, I thought they said.
Yeah.
And so Kofi and Xavier most especially, were like laser focused on this opportunity. And of course, the Judgment Day were taking the New Day lightly, to kind of their detriment, because the New Day were looking absolutely fantastic. Xavier Woods, in particular, was really bringing it. And of course, as the New Day were kind of, doing their thing on the Judgment Day, it wasn't long before the other members of the Judgment Day made their way towards ringside.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I kind of thought, like, is this where Xavier and Kofi have a falling out because they've teased that thread? And, then it was like, well, or is maybe Karrion Kross going to interfere because he's been messing with, Xavier Woods in the New Day for the past month or two? And so I was waiting for something to happen, and sure enough, something did. The Latino World Order rushed down to the ring and got into a fight with the other members of Judgment Day.
Yeah, surprise LWO.
Surprise. Just when you didn't expect them. And this is after, we were there. It was kind of like, well, where's Rey Mysterio, and all this stuff. And it's like, well, apparently,
oh, yeah. Yes. The announcer saying they don't know. We still have no feedback or no news on how Rey Mysterio is after the vicious attack. And I'm like, and then shortly after that, there was a video footage of him at some event. And I'm like, oh, hey, look, you guys, he's fine.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, the members of the LWO that made their way to ringside, I know it was Dragon Lee, and I think it was Wild, and wasn't it Ray? Or was it the other guy that usually hangs out with Wild? Yeah, okay.
Wait, I thought it was... Hold on. Well, hold on. You
see, I'm having trouble remembering.
You might be right. Yeah, it might not be... Let's see. Oh my goodness, who was it? Because I just remember the LWO. Like, I honestly thought all of them went out. like including Ray, and I thought all of them went out there.
Yeah,
Um,
see, I don't remember them focusing on it a lot. Just that there was three members. There was a member of the LWO, a male member of the LWO, for each of the other members of Judgment Day that were out there.
yeah,
And long story short, they get into a brawl outside of the ring. And this leads to a situation where, like, Woods is dropping a top rope. Or no, Woods is still working in the ring with, I think, Finn? And Kofi gets up on the turnbuckle for their tag position, and he does this giant leap. What does he call it? Is it the leap of faith? It might be something like that, but it's basically a senton, but he has like one leg up and the other one like flat,
you might as well
and
call it the scene stiller.
the scene stealer. But he knocks literally everybody that was involved in the brawl to the ground. And then in a weird move that I've never seen another ref in WWE ever do,
Ever.
the referee goes outside of the ring. And this is relevant because he exits the ring to try to usher Kofi back in, but Kofi wasn't the legal man. And
Yeah,
so most times I've ever seen anything like that happen, the ref stays in the ring because all of the legal participants are still in the ring. These are all, it was the guy who was on the apron, so he's not legal to be in the match now anyway, and a whole bunch of people
right.
that aren't in the match at all. But for some reason, this ref got out of the ring to go deal with that. So during that time, Xavier nails the top rope elbow drop, and the ref isn't there to count the pin because he's outside of the ring. So he
Yeah,
completely misses Xavier effectively getting, like, because Xavier counted it himself while he was looking around for the ref. He ended up with like a 5 count on, I think it was Finn Balor that he was pinning.
I think so.
And
Yeah,
then he gets mad and gets up and literally goes out of the ring to drag the ref back into the ring. And this is some craziness because I've never, ever seen the ref do that kind of a thing where the
yeah,
legal competitor has to go find the ref because he's futzing around with the stuff happening outside the ring.
yeah. The
So it
fans didn't
felt
like
like
that either.
no, the ref re-entered the ring to a chant of "Ref, you suck," and I was
Yeah,
just like, "What is happening?" This is one of those examples where, at any given time, pro wrestling just decides that it's not going to remember that it's trying to portray an actual sport with rules and any kind of consistent behaviors by the officials.
yeah,
And so the ref did something completely like they never do this. Like this was really weird. And so it sets up a very forced kind of a scenario where um it allows Finn to make a blind tag, and that allows JD McDonough to uh I think hold him in place for a Baylor coup de grace, and that
yeah,
leads to him pinning Xavier Woods, and Kofi was still completely obliterated, I guess, outside of the ring from his big dive, so he couldn't rush in to make the save. And
yeah.
it felt, I mean, not gonna lie, between the ref shenanigans and Kofi apparently being laid out for a very lengthy amount of time from a dive that really he suffered the least amount of harm from, it felt very forced to get to this conclusion. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
And so, of course, after the match, Xavier's pissed off at everyone and everything. Like he's super
Rightly
mad,
so.
and
Hmm.
and Kofi is trying to talk to him, and he's like, "No, man, I've had enough. This happens every time to us. Why?" And so he storms out of the ring, and we're left just seeing that Woods is very upset, and it's dissension in the New Day.
Yeah.
And good match. Like the wrestling was good. Just that
Hmm.
weirdness with the ref behaving in a way that like refs never do, and all of that, and like Kofi still not being able to make his way into the ring to help at all. All it felt a little forced.
Yeah.
Um, that was my only complaint. Otherwise, it was a pretty solid, excellent, bit of wrestling.
Yeah. I
Uh,
agree.
so following that match, we see a video package for the Wyatt Six, and it's not anything too in depth. It's just a whole lot of like different screens of the Wyatt Six and a QR code, which
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe other people think that's cool. I kind of don't want to be watching wrestling to be told to follow a QR code to another website for whatever the promo was supposed to be. Like, just cut the promo. We're here.
Yeah.
We're here right now. you know?
We're here. Let's do it now. We're here. Come on.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, so I will probably never know whatever that QR code was going to be because I'm not going to follow a QR code to find a promo when I was watching the wrestling show.
I'm sure they'll tell
And
us.
they will probably recap or tell us straight whatever that QR code was going to tell us anyway. So,
Yes.
like, why? Like, like whoever
Exactly.
thinks that's like super edgy and like, oh, look at us being so
No,
neat with these QR codes. It's not. It's
the
lame.
kids, the kids are gonna do it. The kids are gonna follow it. They're gonna do it. The kids love it. They love it.
I guess maybe they
They'll
do.
do it.
I don't know.
They'll do it. They will. The
Perhaps.
reason that I won't do it is because my phone is about as old as my phone was the hotness back when Shayna Baszler was tearing people up in the ring. So 2017. I got an old phone. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I can dig it. And the reason I probably won't do it is because if it was anything really meaningful, they would just air it. So it's just going to be some like extra Wyatt Six spooky swag.
Yeah,
And not that
probably.
there's
I'm gonna be like
anything wrong with that, but I'm not. I'm good.
I,
So,
I kind of almost got the impression that it was like a fan club or something.
oh,
Um,
maybe it is.
and I'd join it. I'm a total fan. Total. Yeah, total fan. So I'd nerd out to it.
Yeah, I can dig that. I like the Wyatt Six a lot.
Hmm.
I just not interested in tracking QR codes for a show I'm watching right now.
Word.
Uh,
Yeah, I feel you.
and just to put a finer point on it, get off my lawn. I am that guy. Um, you kids and your newfangled technology. Uh,
Hashtag get off my lawn.
hashtag just get off my lawn. You get
No
your
hashtag.
hashtags and QR codes out of here. Get out of here.
Sorry.
So after that, we are brought to Kofi Kingston backstage, and Kathy Kelly's trying to catch an interview, but Kofi's all like, "I'm sorry, I've got to find Woods." And I'm like, "How'd you lose Woods? Like, you both theoretically were coming back from the same place. Did he teleport way ahead of you?" Um, but Kofi's got to find Woods. Well, shortly thereafter, you hear Xavier Woods, who is just infuriated and yelling at the Latino World Order for reasons.
Yeah.
And Kofi walks up to him saying he had asked for the LWO to help because Xavier Woods' chastising was something on the lines of like, "Why'd you interfere with our match?" And it turns out that Kofi had actually asked for the help, and Woods says that somehow the LWO cost him the titles, and kind of intimates like, we never needed help before. And Kofi said, well, we know how the Judgment Day rolls, and we didn't need help before because we had an enforcer like Big E, but now it's just us. And Woods like sticks on that point of like just us, and is like, so we're just not good enough, so I'm not good enough. And
Hmm.
before Kofi can really respond to that, Woods says, and another thing, why were the LWO in on our plans for our championship match when your tag team partner, was not in on this? And it stomps away angrily, leaving Kofi kind of thinking about that because despite all the chaos and some of the manufacturedness, that was actually a very valid point to make.
Very
So
valid.
Kofi
Yeah.
Kofi had to stop and chew on that one for a minute because it's a good point.
Yeah.
And
It sounded like Xavier gave Kofi the Kofi cutter.
the Kofi cutter, he did.
I'm sorry. Continue.
He dropped the boom
Delirium.
on him.
Oh, it's delirium. Yeah, so that
But
they had their disagreement, and they pointed out earlier that they're getting close to their 10-year anniversary, the New Day. So I'm interested to see what happens, where they're going with this.
I am too, because as we were watching it, and I mentioned that the New Day has had several different sort of dangling threads that could be pulled on. Like they've had Karrion Kross trying to like break up Woods and Kofi, and now it sort of seems like that might be happening, but like Karrion's not actually involved,
Yeah.
or maybe not directly. Um, And then briefly, they were doing something with Odyssey Jones, but we mentioned the mystery of what happened to Odyssey Jones. Like he has been, as of like I think the 2nd of this month, he's just disappeared off their roster. And scouring the interwebs, I couldn't find any reason for that. So
Yeah.
that kind of came and went. So the New Day has been like doing all kinds of different stuff. So I'm not sure where the story arc is going, for better or for worse. I'm really not sure because there's just been so many kind of left hanging threads with, how this could play out.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see where they go with it too.
I
Um,
too.
but following that, we lead into what I think may have been the best match of the night.
Yeah.
The mighty monstrous man meat slappy meat match
The match that
between
didn't happen, but still
the
happened.
match that didn't but did happen between Braun
Unsanctioned.
Strowman and Bronson Reed. And it starts out with they both get into the ring, and Reed attempts to charge Braun Strowman, and Strowman sidesteps him, sending Reed very hard into the corner of the turnbuckle. And Reed just rips the top rope down. Like the
Yeah.
turnbuckle comes away with him as he bounces off. And so the top rope is gone, like immediately. And everybody's kind of looking around like, so does that mean there's not going to be a match? And technically speaking, there wasn't, because they never rang the bell. But that
Yeah.
did not stop Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed from proceeding to absolutely decimate the
No.
place. So
Oh my goodness, it was amazing.
it was fantastic. But immediately following that, like Strowman, once things kind of settle with the ring rope, he picks up Bronson Reed and choke slams the life out of him. And Bronson Reed's not a little dude.
Yeah.
And Strowman, like, straight up gave him a solid looking choke slam. Like, you know how when sometimes somebody who is a bigger guy is, kind of heavy, maybe can't jump that high, is being given a move like the choke slam, it's usually like, oh, you got him like a foot off the ground, maybe. This was not that. This was Strowman got him up there and
Yeah.
slammed him into the mat. And it was amazing. And I thought that, clearly that would have ended the match if there had been a match. But they just proceeded to start kicking the crud out of one another. I think the officials all came out, and since the place was wrecked, they were trying to get some order on it. But I think immediately following the chokeslam, I'm trying to recall correctly, Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed rolls out of the ring, and that leaves Braun Strowman to do his little, uh, what do they call it? The Braun Express, or the Strowman
Yeah.
Express, where
Yes.
he
Yes.
runs around the ring, and he runs all the way around the ring and smashes into Bronson Reed through the announce area,
No.
like the
No. No. Not yet. Actually, what happened was he was gonna do his charge, and remember, uh, uh, Reed
oh
threw a
yeah.
fan at him. He threw a
Yes.
grown man at him.
Yes. That's right. And at first we didn't know what to make of it because the way the camera perspective was, we just saw some random guy
Yeah.
fly into the frame and hit Strowman his out of his express. And we were like, who the heck was that? And it
Yeah.
wasn't
What just
until like
happened?
the announcer said that Bronson Reed threw somebody from the audience at Braun Strowman, and we're like, and then they
Yeah.
give us a better camera angle. Now I'm sure the guy that got thrown is probably like an NXT dude or something. It's the
Right.
same
Right.
dudes that they pull from when they need just security to get their faces melted off by someone on the main roster. But it was still hilarious. Like Bronson Reed just grabbed this guy and yeeted him into Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
Oh, and that was
Amazing.
insane. And
Yeah.
so I'm sorry, you're right. I forgot that part, but it was in the aftermath of that when Reed is celebrating that Braun comes back and like just like a combination of like crossbody / shoulder charge spear through Reed into the announce barricade, and just the whole barricade comes collapsing down. Like there's just nothing
Yeah.
there. I saw a TikTok. It was either TikTok or Instagram of that same situation, but it was like from a camera that was looking at what Samantha Irvin was doing at the time, and
Oh my
apparently
gosh.
apparently they were like, hey, this looks like it's going to get dangerous here, so we need you to move over here. So they pull her off to the side, and she just looks like she doesn't know what's happening. So she's just like, oh, okay. And then she doesn't see it because she was turned walking away. She hears the crash of Bronson and Braun, and she literally turns and jumps, and then she kind of scoots off to the side, and it was hilarious.
Oh my
So
goodness.
they obliterated the announce area. And it was at that point that I believe that security officials and everybody were trying to separate the two men. And they're down and out from this collision for a little bit. But the first one that I think really kind of gets to their feet and is starting to be ushered away is Bronson Reed. And he's like, I'm done with this. This isn't even a match. Whatever. And so
Now,
they've got him kind of heading out back towards
actually,
the. Hmm.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened was, if you recall, he's going back there. Bronson Reed starts going backstage, and then he calls for Braun to follow him. He told him to come after him, and then
Well,
Braun ran.
I hadn't gotten to that part yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna
Yeah,
shut up.
yeah.
You got it.
No, it's okay. But yeah, this was the part where they were just first getting back up from the collapse at the announce booth, and so Bronson starts being ushered back that direction. When yeah, like you said, he turns and starts like kind of gesturing, and at that point, Braun Strowman has made his way back to his feet, and so he runs up the entrance ramp and around where they were kind of ushering Bronson, and just collides with him, and the whole thing moves to the backstage area.
Yeah. Good
And
times.
and Braun Strowman this time, like unlike their last meeting, Braun Strowman has it out for Bronson Reed. So he's getting the better of him at this first set of interactions. Like he immediately throws Reed into an equipment case. And then I think some of the security was getting especially in Braun's face. And after tossing him into an equipment case, I think he then slammed him like kind of into the wall on top of some equipment cases. And the security dudes were getting really up in Braun's face, and that ended up pissing Braun Strowman off. So he starts yeeting the security guys like off, like out of
Yeah.
frame. And then he reaches down and tips a golf cart over on them. And at that point, the camera that was filming at that moment like goes out. And so they switch to a different camera. And at
Yeah.
this moment, Braun Strowman is attempting to kind of walk over and wants to turn his attention back to Reed, but Reed has recovered. So Reed runs and jumps off of the equipment cases that he had gotten slammed onto and just flattens Braun Strowman through a table.
Yep.
And then, Reed kind of gets up and Strowman, like I said, he's not in the mood for it like he was last time. Like he's up out of that crash table and back onto Bronson Reed pretty quickly afterwards. And he charges at Reed after he gets up and basically, I want to say spear, but I don't think it was quite a spear. Like it was almost like a massive shoulder pounce.
Yeah.
Just
like a tackle.
obliterates Reed through a wall. And then both of them are just down and out through this wrecked wall, and stuff that was on top of the area,
like a shelf
like
against the
falls
wall.
to the
Yeah.
ground. Like a shelf up there just falls down. And Braun and Bronson are just laid out amidst this like piles of sheetrock, and that is essentially where we leave off from this match. Like both guys are just down and out while WWE officials are sitting there trying to figure out how hurt and damaged both men are. And this was probably the best that could have possibly happened. Like especially after their last interaction where you had Bronson Reed do the tsunami onto the top of a vehicle with Strowman in between.
Yeah.
Like this was absolutely the kaiju battle that you wanted these two men to have.
You ain't wrong. You ain't
in
wrong.
a match,
It was amazing.
in a match that wasn't a match. Again, the bell never rang. This was just these two guys beating the hell out of each other and trashing the arena.
Yeah. It was amazing.
It was amazing. This was one of the best big men clashes that I remember seeing probably ever. I mean, it was that good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And then shortly after that, fans had to calm down, I'm sure. Sammy comes out. Sammy comes out to do a promo in the ring, and basically his promo is what it's been as of late. He wants another shot at the belt, and Gunther ain't having it. But Gunther doesn't come out. Excuse me. Gunther doesn't come out. Ludwig Kaiser comes out. Basically because Sammy is saying some stuff that he's not feeling. Basically that Gunther is afraid to have another match with him, because he won the last time. He remembers what happened at WrestleMania, where Sammy did in fact win. Kaiser comes out and is like, cool story, bro. But basically the fact that you won was a miracle. Miracles don't happen twice. He was claimed that they're never gonna have another match again. Zayn turned it around on him and basically says, like, I know Gunther doesn't need you to speak for him, and basically he doesn't need you for anything. And the audience is like, oh snap, but then he says, and I don't think you need Gunther for anything, basically turning it on him to see if he could basically make him turn on Gunther.
Drive a wedge between them.
Yeah. And then before he has the time he before Kaiser has the opportunity to respond to whether or not he has the balls to speak for himself. Gunther's music kicks in, and here comes the most dominant champion ever to
The
walk.
ring general.
Duh.
The ring
The
general.
ring. Yeah, him. He comes out in all black like a Sith character. Um, and he gets into the ring, and before he addresses uh Sami Zayn, he says he wants to address Kaiser and asks Kaiser if there's anything that he wants to tell him. Kaiser goes, "You know what? Yeah, in fact, there is something that I have been wanting to say. It has been on my chesticle for years. I'm about to say it." And then he just turns around and beats Sammy's ass.
Yeah,
Basically,
he just sucker clothesline Zayn out of his boots.
yeah, just Zayn is at the end of the ring, Boots on the other side, in the corner. Like they're about to give him a hell of a kick, his own boots. Um, and then Kaiser holds him so that now Gunther can address him and give him the same answer that he's given him about the match, the rematch, which is nah, no, not gonna happen. And then he walks out of the ring. Uh, Kaiser was gonna go with him, but Sami Zayn y'all know Sami Zayn. He's basically scruffy. Um, he grabs Kaiser's leg, so Kaiser can't leave. And Gunther's like, well, since you can't leave, you might as well stay around and listen. Beat him up some more. So Kaiser's like, that sounds like a great idea. He's about to pick him up. But that does not work out in his favor.
Yeah, I think he tried to hit Zayn with the cradle DDT again, but
He
Zayn
did.
counters it to a
German
rear hold
suplex.
into a German suplex.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
And I
He
mean
yeeted him.
it was a good German suplex. Like he yeeted him, as you said.
Yeah. And then, of course, Sammy found his boots real quick. They jumped back on his feet, and he sent those boots into the corner where Kaiser was for a hell of a kick. And
A hell of a kick.
yeah, Sammy's music kicks in. He is the victor. He's in the ring talking smack. Uh, yeah. Then
Yep. It was a good and interesting spot
yeah,
in and of itself because of like, oh, are you going to actually be able to drive a wedge between Kaiser and Zayn? I'm sorry, Kaiser and Gunter. And
yeah,
I'm glad it failed because that would have felt really weird. Instead, it solidified loyalty between the remaining members of Imperium. I'll be honest, and I said this last week. I'm just not that hot on Gunter and Zayn here.
yeah.
It's a match that they seem to really want to do, but I don't think many people really want to see. So I guess they can keep trying to add more heat to it or make it more interesting, which is what I think they were trying to do here. But I mean, it's boiling down to like Sammy going, "Fight me or you're a coward," and Gunter going, "No." And like that's been 2 weeks now of pretty much the same. Like the previous week they had Bret Hart going, "Coward, coward, McCoward pants," dare ring coward roll, and this week it was a whole lot of like, I guess Gunter's a coward, which is why he's a coward and has his henchmen cowardly coming out here to cowardly speak for him because he's a coward.
Yeah.
And it's just like you can repeat it, it doesn't make it more compelling. Um, so for me, it's still not a like I don't care still, you know? This one
Yeah,
feels like they just want to crowbar it in there. So maybe they have a really cool idea. So more power to them. We're not there yet. Keep selling me on it. You might get me there, but we're not there yet.
maybe. Yeah, no.
I would actually be more interested at this point in a match between like Kaiser and Zayn, or if somehow it became a three-way dance for the championship belt involving Sami Zayn and Ludwig Kaiser, and somehow at the end Ludwig Kaiser wins it. Like maybe Gunter would rather lose it to Kaiser than to Zayn or something. But at this point, I'm wildly speculating. I'm just saying, like, those would all be more interesting options than one more go with Sammy versus Gunter.
I agree.
Um, but moving on from there, we next go again backstage in kind of this continuing through line with the Bloodline. And this is, I guess it's Damien's turn, whereas Rhea, had a drop in from Finn Balor and they sort of had an interview interruption. Kathy Kelly is backstage asking Priest if he had any hesitation about facing Dominic Mysterio, and I'm like, why would you even ask that? No,
Yeah.
if anything, he's like eager to, punch Dominic's face off his head. But
Yeah.
that really was just a pretext for giving Liv an excuse to come up and start talking to Damian Priest's belly button because she is 2 inches
Oh
tall.
my god. Yeah.
And so Liv basically says that he and Ripley are two lonely, pathetic losers hanging on to when they were on top. And I'm sitting there thinking, projection much?
Yeah.
And Priest said that he can't believe somebody in the Judgment Day even has a set of balls, and that Liv should protect hers until Ripley rips them off anyway.
uh,
And he then told her to kiss Dominic goodbye because he was going to put her scumbag boyfriend down. And that he was just getting started. And I forget what he called her.
yeah, I can't remember, but to me, it's the equivalent of calling her a thought.
Yeah, I think it was Spanish, but I'm not sure. I can't remember what the term was. But yeah, the way he spit it at her, it was like it could have been anything from like thought to slut to Jezebel. It was somewhere in that category of insult. It sounded
Yeah.
like.
It
And
gave me thought vibes.
man, in the realm of murder by words, like Liv definitely showed up to a battle of wits that she was unequipped to participate in, and
Yeah.
Priest just obliterated her verbally. Um, so
Yeah, he did.
that was a very satisfying segment where Priest essentially told Liv to shut the hell up, which is something
Yeah.
I think we all really just want to tell Liv. Um, Moving on from there, we go to the previously established new match between Bianca Belair and now Io Sky. Now, Kairi Sane was apparently too injured to participate in a match, but she was not too injured to accompany Io to the ring. And Bianca, of course, was accompanied with Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
Now,
And
here's
here,
the
I'm sorry.
interest. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that this was a short and sweet but fun match. It showcased Io very well. She looked really good, reminding us that she is or that she was a women's champion. And basically it came down to her getting a quick inside cradle for the win. Like, I mean, it was like, but I mean, I'm not trying to cut their match short, but I'm saying that she basically got the win with a nice little inside cradle, and that was
Oh,
after avoiding the KOD, and I think she probably avoided that bad boy 2 times or so. Um,
yeah. It
and
was
and
actually.
it did not make Bianca look bad. It did not make her look weak at all. They
Mhm.
both looked really good, really good, and nobody interfered. It was a really good match.
It was actually a really good match. I don't know that I would agree with like short because it was actually a pretty long match. like long enough for Io and Bianca to run through the initial run of both of their kind of signature moves. Like at least twice, Bianca, maybe even three times, tried to do the um, where she sort of does an overhanded flip into the ropes and then turns it into a moonsault. Like she tried that a couple of times. And there was a few moves that Io tried that, like, the first time, it worked, but the second time, it was countered. And it was actually a decently lengthy match, and both women
I,
were really bringing it.
I apologize. I only meant in the sense that for the other matches, this one was about 8-10 minutes long. So
Yeah,
it was kind of a short match, but a lot happened. They both brought it. I wasn't saying that it was like a 5-minute match or anything. It wasn't. It was.
yeah. No, this was them really showcasing it, and I know I mentioned that Cargill and Sane came to the ring with their respective, tag team, but surprisingly, neither Jade Cargill or Kyrie Sane interfered at all. Like this
Yeah,
was pretty straightforwardly Io Sky versus Bianca Belair, and they
yeah,
really went after it. And I agree with you 100%. The way that Io Sky sort of countered out of the KOD into kind of an inside cradle for a quick pin was fantastic
yeah.
because Bianca and Jade absolutely have the physical advantage on pretty much
Absolutely.
everyone that they have in the division. So you have to make it convincing if they're going to be beaten, particularly if they're going to be beaten straight, right? Like
Yep.
you didn't hit them with a chair or something. And Io Sky really did that in this match. It was great. And I feel like this was I mean, you said it. No one was buried in this process. Like nobody looked bad. It was a very credible match between two competitors, and I loved it because
Yeah.
prior to this point, uh, I kind of had no hope for anyone presenting a legitimate challenge that could be conveyed through the way WWE typically conveys these kinds of things without some sort of shenanigans to
Yeah.
to go against the overwhelming physical advantages that Bianca and Jade have over just everybody else in the division. And this was a good foil to that because it showed that Io Sky can get Bianca's number on the right night.
Yeah.
So fantastic match. One of it was definitely the best women's match of the night, but it was a really
Oh, for
fantastic
sure.
way to show that the division isn't as devoid of potential challengers for Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill as I previously thought. So fantastic. So it leads me to believe. Now I don't know if Kyrie Sane could step up in a similar fashion. I mean, Io Sky is a former women's champion, and she's on kind of a different level with the way she can perform. But who knows? Maybe Kyrie can rise to the challenge and make Damage Control a credible threat. Um,
Yeah. I think she used to be a champion too, but I think a tag team champion with Oscar, or maybe I'm
was that?
misremembering, or
No, you
was
might
that
be right. I think
Io?
it was. Wasn't it? Oh, now I'm not sure. But I
Yeah.
thought it was Kyrie and Asuka were the Kabuki Warriors. I
Yeah, I
think.
think that's right. I think that's right. So I mean, she's been a champion before. I don't know if she's ever been a singles champion. Um, I think that might just be an Io thing, but Io is kind of a big deal. She kind of stands out. So
Yeah, Io can go in the ring. She absolutely can. Um, Kyrie Sane, it would be a tougher sell because she is so much more physically like small compared to Jade and Bianca. That like even
yeah,
if they got like a quick even if she got a quick pin, I would be hard pressed to believe that those women couldn't like kick out of that pin from Kyrie
yep,
Sane
yep,
just by inhaling.
easily.
But
Yeah,
maybe you're possible, and I'm not sure what to do about that. Like I'm not trying to dog Kyrie Sane or anything. I mean, she's the size that she is, right? And it's,
Yeah, of course.
Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are the size that they are. And so it's going to be like you've got to be very creative to make me believe that, a woman the size of one of these other two women's leg is going to be able to beat them in a physical contest.
Yeah.
Like you just have to go about it very creatively to make it work. And I think Damage Control would actually have a better chance if Asuka were to come back. Then maybe. But
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe they'll show us a way that Kairi Sane could believably do so as well. But there's always the fact that it would be a tag match, so Kairi Sane, doesn't necessarily have to carry the burden all on her shoulders alone. She could lean into Io, and maybe together they could find a way to beat one or both of them.
Yeah. I'd be
So
into it. Excuse
I'd
me.
be into it. So I was grateful for this match between Io and Bianca because it was a nice way of showing that the division isn't as lopsided. That these champions maybe can be toppled.
Yeah. And that's funny because we had just mentioned that in a earlier podcast, I think. So
Yep. Either we're pretty good at spotting where some of these things need work and the WWE sees it for themselves, or they're listening to the podcast. And if so, subscribe.
yeah, thank you, please.
Thank you. Yeah. Moving on from that fantastic match, we are then treated to a video package aired about American Made. And this thing was over the top. It was broadly a narration by Chad Gable, but it was like we are all that is America. We are America, America, McMerica, American Made. I mean, it was that like, and it was just like a bald eagle, a flag, and a like big truck, and them, and it was like, okay, we're America in America, American Made.
But yeah,
So
that sums it up. Yeah.
yeah,
Good night,
so
everyone.
it was hilarious. But that was straightforwardly what it was. I was waiting for them at the end to say this message was paid for by Chad Gable. So
Yes.
after that particularly amusing little treat, we cut to Ludwig Kaiser, in a backstage promo about Sami Zayn saying that Zayn was a fool for thinking he could, run a wedge between Gunther and Kaiser, but he's probably trying to think of, other people being like him and the way him and his best friend Kevin Owens, always stabbing each other in the back.
Yeah.
And
then,
that Sammy, sorry.
oh, I was gonna say Kaiser called Sammy a sad, bitter man who is jealous of Owens for being a world champion, while Zayn is never gonna be that. And I was
Exactly.
like, ooh wee.
Yeah, more or less saying that the biggest reason Zayn wants to be a world champion is so, that's not a one up with his buddy Kevin Owens, since Zayn has never been a world champion.
Yeah. And after that, we go backstage with Jey Uso, and Dragunov shows up and he wishes him good luck. Uh, Jey Uso appreciated that. Walks off. Judgment Day comes up and threatens Dragunov, basically, telling him to basically watch who his friends are. And Dragunov's response was, friends is a strong word, but I do respect Rhea and Damien and Jay, but he didn't respect the Judgment Day. And Balor said that was like a friendly reminder, but next time they wouldn't be so nice with it. And then they had to go take care of one of his friends, one of Dragunov's friends. Which rolls us into I think the last match of the night, right?
The
Damian
main event,
Priest.
yep. Damian
Yeah,
Priest versus Dominic Mysterio.
yeah. Which was it was. I mean, it was what you expected. You expect Damian to dominate, and he did. You expect for uh Dominic. I'm sorry. You expect for Damian to dominate, and he did. You expect for Dominic to get in some cheap shots or to be kind of like a little Weasley guy. Which I mean, hey, he's good at, and he's real
Hmm.
good in the ring with it.
And he did.
And that happened. You expect Judgment Day, the members of Judgment Day, to come in, and they do. And
Yep.
you expect Damian Priest to kind of give them all proper spankings individually, and he does.
Yep.
Um, and you expect for Damian Priest to win. He does. Uh,
He does.
and of course,
Decidedly.
decidedly, yeah. And
Yep.
of
With a
course, as
massive. Sorry.
no, please, go
Just
ahead.
just for the close, Priest wins decidedly after a whole lot of shenanigans
Yeah.
with a massive South of Heaven choke slam. You love to see it.
Yeah, like I think Dominic may have seen clouds. He may have even waved to God before he came back down to earth and onto the
at the
mat.
top, at the top of the choke slam, he was all like, "Is that you, Uncle Eddie?" And then back to
Oh,
Earth.
oh, too soon. Um, no, but no, it's funny. Um, yeah, Eddie's like, get out of here. What are you even doing here right now? Not your time.
Not your time, yeah.
Yeah, get out of here. But then of course you expect after the match for Judgment Day to come in and do what Judgment Day gon' do. And they did. Boy, they went in there and they tore it up. They beat the stuffing out of Damien. Rhea gets a hold of Dominic, but Liv pulls her down. I think Rhea was on the side there. She was on
Yeah,
the
the apron. Hmm.
yeah on the apron, and then Liv comes up and grabs her and yanks her down from the apron. So that didn't work out. I mean, basically, it was just a stomp. Um,
Yeah.
when and so then of course Jay's music starts and he's coming out but he's in hyena form. So he's like
Right,
crouched down really low,
the hungry
and he's like,
jackal who's
yeah, and he's
rubbing
like
his
rubbing his
hands
hands
together.
together, like, mm-hmm. But I think Breaker missed his cue because Jay was kind of out there for a little bit, like 5 seconds or so, just kind of doing the thing, like it's like he was surveying the
Hmm.
surroundings before Breaker came flying at him like a dart, and
Yeah. It looked
gave him
like
a
because Breaker.
gave him
Go
the
ahead.
highest spear. Like that spear that he gave Jay was like he speared Jay's neck. Like
Yeah. Well,
it
part
was
of
the
it was because I
highest
think
spear.
Jay was still kind of crouched down, rubbing his hands together. But I think part of what maybe took Breaker a bit of time is that he when he hit the spear, he was wearing like a hoodie. So I think he was coming through the crowd, but we couldn't see it because we were looking straight down the aisle where Jay was coming down.
Yeah,
So we didn't see anything but like Breaker appear, in frame and obliterating Jey Uso.
yeah, that was it. And then yeah, after that we see Rhea and Morgan are in the ring now. Everybody's still just stomping Damien out. Morgan hits Rhea with with Oblivion, and that's it. Like the Judgment Day stands tall and victorious over the Terra Twins, and Jay is outside of the ring without a neck. Um, and that was
Completely necklace.
necklace, and that was Monday Night Raw.
And that was Monday Night Raw.
Boop
Yeah,
boop.
we leave with a scene of the Judgment Day just towering over the Terror Twins. And Jey Uso, like you said, just flat with no neck, dreaming
Yeah.
of better Waffle House days.
Yeah, back when he had a neck to swallow the waffles.
When he could, yeah.
Yeah, now he's without.
But fantastic. Once again, I'd like to compliment the kind of show format of having these through lines that play throughout the entirety of the show.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to have like this like just constant through line of the events going on between the Terra Twins and the Judgment Day, as you know, while everything else was going on. So you have all of these little side plots that are developing, and you've got the main through line that kind of keeps the show, focused. And
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I have to
Yeah.
say, I really, really like that.
I'm
Um,
fan.
I'll admit that at the end there, especially since they did that promo just before the match that involved Ilya Dragunov, I was a little surprised that Ilya didn't show up. But
Yeah. But maybe that's
maybe
a
they were
future thing.
just yeah, maybe they were just introducing us to the idea that Ilya will be involved in some of this. And I have to say, the Terror Twins might have been down and out this episode, but they're starting to assemble a very powerful group of people. I mean, Jey Uso, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, and if they're picking up Ilya Dragunov, goodness gracious,
Yeah.
and the LWO doesn't have any love for Judgment Day either. So
Yeah.
it's going to be fairly soon before the Judgment Day no longer has the numbers game on their side.
Yep. And
And
I
the
don't know.
numbers
I'm
that
excited. I'm excited to see it.
Oh, I'm excited too. And I feel like the numbers that are gathering against them are greater than the current roster of
I
the
agree.
Judgment Day.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but Jey Uso and Ilya Dragunov absolutely beats, certainly McDonough and Carlito. Um,
Yeah.
so very soon, forces will be arraigned against the Judgment Day that are vastly superior than their current membership.
Yeah. I agree.
So I
I'm
look
here
forward
for
to
it.
seeing. Yep. I look forward to seeing it. So on the whole, what would you rate Monday Night Raw?
I would give it it's top tier. It's top tier. Anything,
Top tier.
anything eight, anything eight and above is top tier for me. And I would say that it was probably an eight, 8.5. Definitely top tier. It was great. It was fun. And I kind of like the 2 hour format. It just kept things flowing, so that one thing led to another, which led to another, which led to another. I'm a huge fan, so it was good.
Yeah, I also think it would be top tier for me as well. While I think that the least interesting match, because there wasn't really anything that I would say was like a blight, right? But for
Yeah.
me, the least interesting segment was probably just the kind of filler slash throwaway match between Natalia, Lyra Valkyrie, and Vega versus the Pure Fusion Collective.
Yeah, I agree.
But it wasn't that it was bad. It's just that it wasn't like standout in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
Compared to pretty much everything else that was on the card for the night. Even CM Punk's promo. But I hate to say it. Um, so like everything else was pretty fantastic. And, on the opposite end of that, not looking at what maybe was the lower point of the card, looking at the highest point of the card, I mean, all of the Judgment Day and Terror Twin stuff was fantastic, but an absolute standout was the match that wasn't. The Braun Strowman Bronson Reed
Yeah.
monster on monster kaiju battle that just destroyed various parts of both of these two men and the ring, the barricade, the wall, the backstage, a whole bunch of security dudes. This was everything that you want out of like a big man on big man kind of just like two monsters battling match. It was perfect.
Yeah. I
So I would
could not agree
probably
more.
considering that push my rating maybe even to a 9. You know what I'm saying? So I
I do.
definitely give it a thumbs up. It was top tier. This was very good storytelling. I really like the format. Having a through line with your absolute top act on each show is brilliant because it keeps. Yeah, I know there were times in the past where like we'd see the Bloodline segment and we're like, well, SmackDown's over. It was a good show, and I feel like they've tapped into that. Like, oh yeah, so pretty much after people see like the thing that they really were interested in, maybe they're not staying as focused in. So by having a through line that feeds a little bit of the Judgment Day on Raw and a little bit of the Bloodline storyline throughout SmackDown, keeps you invested for everything else. And that's
Yeah.
genius.
Yeah, I agree.
It's also very entertaining. Like it's genius if you're the producer of the show and you're thinking, how can I keep them watching? It's absolutely wonderful if you're a fan and you're just getting more of the thing that you really wanted throughout the entire show.
Yeah.
It's not the first bite of the raisin bran that had all of the raisins in it, and now all you're left with is the bran, and it's like I don't want the rest of this now. So
Yeah.
it's perfect. It's genius, and I would just like to say I'm a big fan and give them a lot of credit for that. And I don't disagree with you. The 2 hour format was good. The reports that I've heard is that that's only going to be a 2 hour format for the duration of their stay on USA, which is until
Yeah.
the end of December when they will then move to Netflix, where, at least from what I've read, they fully intend to return to a 3 hour format. And I don't necessarily think that would be bad. I don't see why that would like defocus them because especially if they continue to use this through line format, then even if you're having to tap into some of the wrestlers that are not like super over or maybe people's favorites to give them TV time, you can still sprinkle in your top star stuff so that it feels more even-handed. And so I don't necessarily think that the format would have to suffer for going to a third hour, but it certainly worked in this 2 hour format. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that brings us to the end of this week's episode on Monday Night Raw. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and I hope you found the show enjoyable. And if you haven't gone and seen this Raw, I recommend that you do. There was a lot to like in this. If you're a wrestling fan and if you're a WWE fan, you will not be disappointed.
Agreed.
That said, as I always do at the end of the episode, go ahead and roll the outro.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.